After visiting that haunted house, I somehow got myself a ghost stalker. When he finally pressed against me and gave me a kiss, I'd had enough. I left a review for the haunted house. The ghost groom NPC was super dedicated. I accidentally touched his hand, ice cold. Wonder which staff member that was. Then I looked up to see blood-red letters appearing crooked on my bathroom mirror. Eric Torres. Come on, this isn't Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, I muttered. Eric Torres who? I asked out loud. The mirror wrote back, your husband. I stared at those crimson letters in silence. A week ago, I visited this famous haunted house in town. Rumor had it that weird things happened to you afterward, until you post a review promoting the place. I rolled my eyes when I heard that. What a lame marketing trick. I've always been brave and believed in science, until I got home from the haunted house. First, peeled apples started appearing on my table. Then my broken hair clip mysteriously got fixed. But most disturbing of all, every night since, I've felt this cold, damp presence wrapping around me in my half-sleep. Less like something pressing down, more like something holding me. Until tonight, when I clearly felt something cold brush against my lips, just once, before the weight on me disappeared. I snapped my eyes open in the darkness and sat up. After a few seconds, I resigned myself to grabbing my phone and writing that review for the haunted house. The rumors said all the weird stuff would stop once I promoted the place. Now I'm staring hard at this mirror that boldly claims, your husband, with zero intention of disappearing. I'm pretty sure I don't have a husband, I said tentatively, moving closer to examine the mirror. The mirror rippled like water, and I thought I saw a shadow flash by inside it. A cold breeze swept through, and suddenly my facial cleanser fell off the counter with a loud thud. Somehow, I sensed he was angry. I put the cleanser back. Don't be mad. I honestly don't remember what happened. Write it out and tell me. After a moment, your husband disappeared, and new words started forming. 7 days ago in the haunted house, you married me wearing a veil. So I'm your husband now and followed you home. The mirror gradually filled with tiny red letters. He seemed to write slowly and with effort, pausing between strokes and erasing mistakes. Stop, stop, stop. The fear suddenly left me. This was getting ridiculous. Do you have another way to communicate? Something easier? After a while, my phone lit up in the darkness with a text message. I looked down at the eerily familiar number and froze. It was my own phone number sending me a text. Human, I'm Ghost. This was too weird. I silently added a contact name, then typed back. I know. You're the one who married me in the haunted house that day. Yes. So completing that ceremony made us married? Yes. Wife. That message popped up right before my eyes, as if someone had actually called me that. I nearly threw my phone across the room. Don't call me that yet. Where are you right now? In front of you. I shuddered, looking up at the empty space before me. Nothing but still air silently staring back. Not a hint of any ghost. I'm waving at you, human. Kanyukyo. My scalp tingled with goosebumps. I pretended not to see that message, and continued questioning him. The male ghost seemed somewhat confused in his thinking, taking several disjointed messages to explain. After the wedding ceremony, a contract formed between us, making me the only human he could find and follow in this world. Human, I have nowhere else to go. I pressed my lips together, strangely touched by the hint of sadness in his words. But I couldn't let myself soften. How do I know you're not tricking me? In our human world, all ghosts are bad. He sent a pouting emoji. He might struggle with words, but he was surprisingly fluent with emoticons. Human, look at wrist. Following his instruction, I glanced down at my wrist. Sure enough, a faint blood-red line appeared beneath my skin, seemingly breaking through and connecting to some unknown place. When I tried to see where it led, somewhere in front at an angle, the line vanished. Not lying. Just as that message came through, I felt something damp and cold wrap around my waist, and a strange sensation brushed against my cheek. Don't touch me. I instinctively shouted aloud, only realizing afterward that he could hear me speak. No typing needed. The cold sensation immediately disappeared, followed by another pouting emoji. Why? I'm not comfortable with it. I made up an excuse. Besides, that wedding was too simple to count. Wait until we have a proper ceremony and then. My ears burned. I couldn't say the word. He seemed to pause for a moment before messaging. Okay. I sighed with relief. Then I'm going to sleep now. Okay, human. I'll watch you always. The air went dead silent for 3 seconds before I responded with awkward disgust. Don't say creepy stuff like that. After a long wait, he finally replied. I meant human is pretty. I was momentarily stunned, even unsure whether I should thank Eric Torres. But as a human, I felt I shouldn't lose face in front of a ghost. I should be polite. Thanks, Torres. I said seriously into the empty space, then climbed into bed with my phone. Before that chill could wrap around me again, I opened my phone to search if anyone had similar experiences. I was surprised to find a search history entry that wasn't mine. What to do when staring at wife but she gets angry? A studious ghost, but not a bright one. The next day I dragged my tired body to work. Perhaps because he doesn't need sleep. Eric was unusually excited in my phone. 9:18 a.m. Human, is this work? 9:32 a.m. Work bad. No look at phone, no talk. Ghost bored. 10:02 a.m. Why he yell at you? When I finally checked my phone after finishing my tasks, I gasped, suddenly understanding why my boss had almost choked on his water while yelling at me. Looking around to make sure no one was watching, I frantically typed, "Don't mess around. I'll pay attention to you after work. Be good and stay put, okay?" After sending that, I nervously left my phone at my desk and borrowed a coworker's to call the haunted house owner. A young, energetic male voice quickly rattled off an advertisement. "Hello, we offer scary, super scary, and super plus scary haunted house experiences. Would you like to book? A ghost is following me." I interrupted in a hushed voice. The voice paused, then asked in shock, "What did you say?" "A ghost is following me," I repeated firmly. "His name is Eric." The phone went silent for a good 15 seconds before he spoke again, his tone completely opposite from his previous cheerfulness. "Come see me. Hurry." I rushed to get time off work and headed to the haunted house. Only the owner was there. I'd never been here under these circumstances before. The moment I stepped inside, the temperature plummeted. My expression changed. "It's not the haunting, I swear," the owner said apologetically, turning up the AC. He muttered, "Our employees are very professional. They never let people sense their presence." I raised an eyebrow. "So those rumors are true?" The owner avoided my eyes, scratching his head. He had dyed bright red hair and wore a black earring in his right ear. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Brian, the owner of this haunted house." He extended his hand. "Also a necromancer." "A necromancer? Don't I look the part?" He lifted his chin, looking disappointed, then slumped into a chair. "Man, everyone believes in science these days. I couldn't make a living, so I had to open this haunted house." I narrowed my eyes. "So this haunted house has real ghosts?" Brian laughed nervously. "Some lost souls wandering around is pretty sad, right? I just give them something to do." I couldn't help asking, "So what's Eric's deal?" Brian's expression crumpled as he hesitated to find the right words. "His situation is complicated. He's the most stubborn case I've seen." I interrupted him. "Wait, can he hear you saying this?" I worried about Eric's ghostly eavesdropping. Brian crossed his legs with a hint of pride. "I just put up a charm at the door. He can't come in right now." "So where is he?" "He's standing at the entrance waiting for you." Brian paused, completely still, staring intensely at you, super focused. I imagined the scene and shuddered. "Please hurry up and tell me what's going on." Brian took a moment before speaking. "This Eric was originally one of the wandering spirits I recruited, but when I hired him, I discovered he couldn't remember many things about himself. I know even less, but he does remember he came looking for someone." I paused. "Looking for someone?" Brian nodded. "That's all he does every day. Just searching." I glanced toward the door with mixed feelings. "Then why is he saying we're married?" Brian gritted his teeth when he heard this. That day he randomly pushed aside our NPC and took that position himself. I normally place protective spells on all our NPCs. The ritual elements in our haunted house are thorough but never actually work. But Eric had nothing on him. "So you two actually got married for real?" I stared at Brian, feeling desperate. "So he's telling the truth? He's my ghost husband?" Brian nodded solemnly. "Is there any way to get rid of him?" I wasn't giving up, even though his situation sounded sad. I couldn't be haunted by a ghost forever, especially one who pressed against me and stole kisses at night. What if one day he actually wanted to share a bed? Brian thought for a moment. "Let me check on him first." He walked to the door and pulled off the charm, then looked around confused. "That's strange. He's not at the door anymore." I took out my phone to ask Eric, but my screen erupted with messages like a virus. "Human come home, human come home, human come home." By the time I rushed breathlessly to my apartment building, the messages were already 40 minutes old. Eric hadn't sent anything since, making those texts seem like a little dog nagging its owner to come home. Just as I got into the elevator, I received a new message. "Human problem solved. No more other men in house." My heart dropped when I saw this. When the elevator doors opened, I heard a man's agonized groaning. My ex-boyfriend James was sprawled in front of my door, all 6 feet of him curled into a ball clutching his leg. I frowned, looking down at him. "What the hell do you have living in your apartment?" he gasped. James's face was pale, either from pain or from seeing something terrifying. "A man," I said coolly. "You're allowed to have women on the side. But I can't have a man? James's expression shifted from fear to guilt. I didn't realize I hurt you that badly. You were always so slow to warm up when we were together. And now you found someone else so quickly? Is he in smart home technology or something? Everything in your place moves by itself. I stared at him, disgusted. Are you serious right now? I ignored his comments. I told you to come tomorrow. I'm busy. James grimaced as he struggled to stand. We don't actually have to break up, you know. I see you've kept all my stuff. I narrowed my eyes. Looking at it makes me sick. I packed it up for you to take away. Take it now or I'll burn it. I came early to see you. My leg got caught in the door on my way out. Look how bad it is. I sighed. You're mental. James seemed to ignore my dismissal and moved closer. But it really hurts. Suddenly, the hallway lights went dark. James let out a terrible scream. When the lights came back on, the wound on his leg was tearing open by itself, getting longer and longer as blood gushed out. The hallway lights flashed rapidly, making James's screams even more terrifying. Despite all this commotion, none of the neighbors seemed to hear anything. Not a single door opened. Even with my brave nature, I was shocked by the scene and took a step back. As I stumbled, I felt something steady me from behind. Then the lights stopped flickering, and James's wound stopped bleeding, leaving him writhing on the floor in cold sweat. Get out, I said coldly. Don't come back, and don't spread rumors. If my boyfriend gets upset, I can't protect you. He looked at me like I was the ghost, then limped away as fast as he could, not looking back. You're doing? I asked the empty air. Eric, yes. He didn't take his things. I glanced at the items scattered on the floor, mementos from my time with James. He was my first love, handsome and gentle at first, but he changed somewhere along the way. The human heart is harder to understand than ghosts. My eyes fell on a photo of James and me. In it, I was smiling at the camera while James whispered intimately in my ear. Suddenly, one corner of the photo caught fire. The flames spread quickly, reducing it to ashes within seconds. That damp, cold presence brushed against me again, lingering especially by my ear. Don't look. Eric disappeared. Under my direction, he obediently burned all of James's things and cleaned up the blood and ashes. Having a male ghost around wasn't so bad after all. All done, he messaged. I couldn't help but smile. Good boy, watchdog. Sorry, watch ghost. Eric asked. Where did you go earlier? My smile faded. Nowhere important. I couldn't let him know I was trying to find a way to break our contract. 3 seconds later, a bouquet of roses appeared on the floor, paper roses. I can give you flowers too. I realized Eric must have seen the roses in the photo he burned. Human, just me as husband. No need for others, okay? After a moment I nodded. For the next few days, though I still slept poorly, I didn't go back to see Brian. During lunch break at work, I was napping with my pillow when a thick fog appeared in my dream. Within it stood a tall figure, somewhat intimidating but vague. I instinctively wanted to move closer. The figure seemed to sense my approach and started to turn around. I strained to see his face clearly when my coworker suddenly called my name, yanking me from the dream. I jumped, accidentally biting my tongue. Sorry about that, my coworker said apologetically. It's fine. I mumbled through my injured tongue. Usually when I bit my tongue, it hurt briefly and stopped, but this time it wouldn't stop bleeding. Similar bad luck had been happening lately. Elevator maintenance when I was running late, breakfast sold out before I could buy any. Maybe it had something to do with a certain ghostly house guest. The ghost in question had zero self-awareness. After I bit my tongue, a cold presence immediately wrapped around me from behind, with the chilly breath moving closer to my mouth. Don't move, I snapped. The cold sensation instantly froze, then retreated with what felt like dejection. My coworker jumped at my outburst. Sorry, not you, I said, pressing a cotton swab to my wound and gesturing for her to continue. That person who you called from my phone the other day, he called back for you. I had left in such a hurry that I hadn't arranged how to stay in contact with Brian. When I reached him, he said mysteriously, Come by the shop again. I found a way for you to get rid of Eric. Brian crossed his arms, looking proud. Get a divorce, and Eric won't be able to follow you anymore. I begged my mentor for days before he told me the secret. For marriages across the living-dead divide, you need a ritual. You have that marriage line on your wrist, right? I touched my wrist and nodded. You just need to repeat the marriage ceremony. But when it's time for the vows, cut your wrist to release the blood. The marriage line will disappear. I nodded, pressing my lips together thoughtfully. Brian hesitated. But divorces also need to happen on the right day. I checked for you. It'll be 4 weeks from now. Brian gave me a sympathetic look. You'll have to put up with him a bit longer. For some reason I felt relieved. That's fine. Are you sure? Brian studied me with a complicated expression. Are you two really getting along okay? Your dark circles are practically hitting the floor, and Brian glanced toward the door where Eric was supposedly waiting for me. He's injured. What have you two been doing? Injured? I asked, confused. Eric had never mentioned being hurt. We haven't done anything except. I carefully explained how Eric had dealt with James. That explains it, Brian frowned. Ghosts get punished when they harm humans. Eric must really treasure you. The wound on his face still hasn't healed. I didn't respond, biting my lip as I looked toward where Eric was supposed to be. Tsk, Brian shook his head. What a lovesick ghost. His poor injured face actually looks kind of pitiful. You still don't know what he looks like, right? Is he scary? I'd imagined he looked like ghosts from horror movies. Brian pursed his lips. Scary? Scary beautiful. I rarely see male ghosts this handsome. That's why I wanted to recruit him in the first place. Want to see him? I quickly declined. No thanks. Beauty is dangerous. I'm afraid if he's too handsome, I won't want to get rid of him. Brian asked about my dark circles. Ghosts sleep paralysis at least 4 nights a week, I explained wearily. Why didn't you say so earlier? Brian grabbed a cross and handed it to me. Hang this on your bedroom door and he can't come in. Eric was a clingy ghost. When he had nothing better to do, he loved hanging around me and messaging through my phone. Though his texts were often disjointed, he never shut up. Before bedtime, he always insisted on saying goodnight, despite not needing sleep himself. So I could never really have a late night. One evening, I muttered to myself as if thinking out loud. My stomach feels weird. I want some hot water, but don't want to get out of bed. Within seconds, I heard the water heater running in the kitchen. I jumped out of bed, quickly hung the cross on my bedroom door, closed it, and got back under the covers. Finally, I slept peacefully. In the middle of the night, though, I heard faint crying coming from outside my bedroom door. I checked my phone and found multiple messages from Eric. Human doesn't want me. I have nowhere to go. Crying.jpg. With a sigh, I got up to let Eric back in. The moment I opened the door, that damp coldness enveloped me. Unlike his usual embraces, this one wrapped around me tightly. The bone-chilling cold crept up my spine, making it hard to breathe. A primal fear consumed me as Eric's hands touched my waist, face, and cheeks. I could feel the shape of his palm, the pressure of each finger. If he wanted to, I couldn't escape. This was the first time I truly realized I was living with a male ghost. Apparently, Eric had just been playing around before. He'd never shown his real strength. After just a few seconds, he released me. You can't leave me, my phone displayed, followed by a photo, a black and white portrait that I immediately knew was Eric. He was gorgeous. The boy in the picture looked only 17 or 18, with slightly long, wavy hair and eyes like pools of dark ink staring intensely at the camera. He wasn't smiling, but his lips curved slightly upward, beautiful lips. His beauty made the photo even more unsettling. The more beautiful, the more dangerous. Human, this is me. Not ugly. Don't reject me. So he wanted to prove he wasn't some hideous monster, afraid I'd discard him? I'm not rejecting you, I said, thinking about the divorce ritual 4 weeks away, my voice betraying my guilt. Just you pressing on me every night makes it hard to sleep. Human has bad luck. I can't enter dreams. Can only hold you. Huh. I was confused. While I'd never been particularly lucky, who else would meet a real ghost in a haunted house? Things had been exceptionally bad lately. Wasn't that because of Eric? Human put cross by bed when sleeping. I didn't understand what Eric was planning, but I followed his instructions anyway. Closing my eyes, I quickly drifted off. In my dream, I saw that thick fog again with the figure inside it. This time, the figure turned around quickly, and I easily made out his face. Identical to the photo, only paler, with eyes like bottomless black pits. Looking at him, I mumbled to myself. I just saw his photo and now I'm dreaming about him. Is the subconscious really that quick? To my surprise, he responded. His voice had a cold edge, emotionless but naturally pleasant. Human, this is me. Seeing I hadn't fully processed this, Eric moved closer, his gaze intense and fixed on me. You don't like? This was my first time seeing Eric face to face. I couldn't tell if I was stunned by his beauty or terrified. Either way, I couldn't speak. Eric nuzzled my neck, clearly dissatisfied. What look you like? I can change. The familiar sensation sent goosebumps across my skin, finally snapping me back to reality. You can enter my dreams? Always could. Eric played with my hair as he spoke, twirling it between his fingers. So this was why I always felt that damp coldness. Eric had been beside me all along, taking these little liberties because I couldn't see him. Hey, stand up straight, I commanded, surprising myself with my boldness in ordering a ghost around. Eric immediately dropped my hair and stood up straight. His obedience made me uncomfortable. Then why don't you come into my dreams normally? He answered, "Human's luck too bad. Cross boosts luck so I can enter. When I hold human, other ghosts stay away." So my bad luck wasn't because of Eric. In fact, meeting him had prevented worse things from happening. I looked at the pale-faced but obedient ghost before me. "I heard you were injured for breaking rules." Boldly, I reached out to touch his face, my fingertips meeting indescribable cold. "Where are you hurt? Let me see." Eric stepped back, shaking his head. "Human will be scared. Won't like me." I paused, then said softly, "I won't." But Eric refused to show me no matter what. He'd even prepared for our dream meeting by studying which attractive guys I'd liked on my video apps, trying to figure out my type. In the end, he'd decided to appear as his true self. Seeing how concerned he was about his appearance, I dropped the subject. The night passed quickly, just a dream for me. I expected to feel tired the next day, but actually felt more refreshed than I had in days. On my way to work, I texted Eric saying he could visit my dreams every night. The photo was still in our chat, and I found myself looking at it again. Before I could close it, a voice beside me said, "That's the Torah's oldest boy." My heart jumped. I turned to see an ordinary-looking elderly woman who'd glimpsed my phone screen. "You know him?" I asked. "I do," she nodded. "The Torah's family used to be my neighbors before they moved a few years ago. That's their oldest, Eric. Such a handsome boy, well-behaved, smart, good student. I couldn't forget him." She studied the black and white photo, hesitating. "What happened to him?" "He's passed away." I told her the truth. She sighed deeply. "Such bad luck. Do you have any contact information for his family?" The old woman shook her head. "People aren't as connected as they used to be. Once they moved, we lost touch completely." I thanked her and thought about what Brian had said, that Eric's situation was strange. Remembering nothing, wandering day after day, obsessively searching for that person he kept mentioning. Perhaps he truly was a lost soul. Maybe Eric's family could provide answers about why he became this way. I took out my phone to search for information about Eric online. Opening the search engine, I discovered several searches I hadn't made. What kind of wedding do girls dream about? What to do if wife doesn't like wedding plans? Complete wedding venue guide. He'd browsed nearly 100 pages, with 19 of them saved with different notes. I couldn't help but smile. No wonder he'd been quieter these past couple days. He'd been busy planning. As soon as I fell asleep, I realized this wasn't an ordinary dream. I found myself in a spacious, lavishly decorated hall. A long carpet stretched from my feet to the far end where Eric stood, looking slightly nervous yet expectant. Though he was far away, I could hear him clearly. "Babe, do you like it?" Eric was seriously trying to organize a wedding that would satisfy his wife. He was as serious as if he were facing his boss rather than his wife. Noticing me looking around, he seemed a bit disappointed. "You don't like it?" Before I could say anything, Eric pressed his lips together, and the surroundings began changing rapidly. 3 seconds later, the hall transformed into a beachside scene. I was even more shocked. Seeing Eric looking increasingly dejected, his dark pupils concentrating, as if about to change the scene again, I quickly stopped him. It's fine. I'm satisfied. I really like it." Eric stopped, breaking into a content smile. "Babe, I want to see you in a wedding dress too. Would that be okay?" I hesitated. After breaking up with James, I'd thrown myself completely into my career. Marriage was something I hadn't even considered. How strange that I'd end up picking up a ghost husband in a haunted house, and now was about to wear a wedding dress to marry him. I wondered if this would be the only time in my life. Looking at Eric's hopeful expression, I nodded. The next second, my clothes transformed into an elaborate white wedding dress. My long hair cascaded down, and the accessories on my head jingled. Eric stood beside me. Everything followed the standard wedding procedure he'd learned, with one difference. Besides Eric and me, there wasn't a single guest on the blue coastal shore. Though shadows lingered around his eyes that couldn't be dispersed, he remained earnestly committed, almost stubborn. Eric's face showed an apologetic expression. "Babe, I'm sorry my parents can't be here." I gently shook my head. "It's okay. That's actually good news. It means your family and friends are still alive in the world." "Oh." Eric's eyes revealed confusion. He was a ghost who had lost his memories. "Is that how it works?" "I don't remember," he whispered, hanging his head. My heart suddenly filled with a sour tenderness. I grabbed Eric's hand, ignoring the chill that shot straight to my core, and pulled him close. "It doesn't matter. Let's skip the rest and get to the main point." I positioned Eric to face me. "I do," I softly recited. As the words reached my ears, I gently pressed against Eric's ice-cold lips. In that moment, I felt strangely disoriented. What had started as playing house with a ghost in a dream, now felt like we had truly gone through a complete journey of love together, reaching this perfect conclusion. I lowered my head, and saw the red blood line on my wrist that had been hidden all this time. It showed itself again, passing through my flesh. I could clearly see its other end connected to Eric's unnaturally white wrist. I remembered Brian's words. If I let the blood out, Eric would never haunt me again. It was that simple. While I was still lost in thought, a cold sensation pressed against my face, Eric's lips. It was a breath not of this world against my lips and tongue, clinging tightly. There was no rotting ghost smell, just coldness and a fleeting sense of fear, followed by a faint, unidentifiable fragrance. How should I put it? It wasn't bad at all. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, momentarily confused about what had happened. I went through my morning routine in a daze, washing up and eating breakfast. A cold wind blew by, making me shiver. Instinctively, I knew it was Eric. Turning my head, I caught a glimpse of his figure in the reflection of the glass opposite me. Sure enough, he was there, snuggling against me affectionately. I don't know if it was because of that kiss in the dream, but occasionally I could now see Eric in reflections. However, the more I could see him, the more inexplicably restless I became. As the time for the divorce ritual I had scheduled with Brian approached, I found myself searching for information about Eric online more and more frequently. Surprisingly, I actually found something, some official information about Eric from his university days. I stared intently at the screen, scrolling through the information. Something wasn't right. According to what Brian had relayed, Eric had died at least 3 years ago, though the specifics weren't clear. But the information I found showed that Eric had been alive and well just a few months ago. I spoke slowly. Eric, would you agree to have a wedding in the real world too? Yes, Eric replied. I was slightly startled. I had mentally prepared numerous arguments, but Eric agreed without asking for any reasons. Then again, he never put up any defenses against me, and always tried to fulfill my wishes. Eric, what is it, babe? After a while I shook my head. Nothing. No matter how reluctant I felt, I couldn't spend the rest of my life entangled with a ghost. Besides, Eric had someone he truly needed to find, and staying with me wasn't a permanent solution. I went back to Brian's shop. With only a few days left before our scheduled divorce ritual, he had asked his master to help me, and wanted to go over some final details. As usual, Eric waited obediently at the door. While listening to Brian's endless talking, I suddenly interrupted him. After the divorce, will he still be able to find me? Brian was surprised by my sudden question. After a moment he answered, Don't worry, he won't. Ghosts and humans exist in different dimensions. He can find you now only because of the marriage bond between you. Once the ritual ends, he'll never find you again. Brian's master was a legitimate-looking spiritual medium. Before the ritual began, Eric mysteriously disappeared, up to something secretive. The medium gave me a sticker. It was a Hello Kitty design with little adhesive, looking like it was made from her granddaughter's old toys. She told me to be ready. When the time came for the vows, I needed to cut the bloodline with the prepared blade, then quickly apply the sticker to the wound. The blood would flow onto the sticker, and the wound would heal rapidly without losing more blood. Seriously? The materials could be this casual? I accepted it, and lowered my head in thanks. The medium looked at me thoughtfully for a while, narrowing her eyes. There's no real danger in this, but once it's done, he truly won't be able to find you again. Child, are you sure? I hesitated. Is there a way for me to find him? You could try communicating with spirits, but... The medium looked at me and finally sighed. Never mind. Fate is not for others to interfere with. If you've made up your mind, go ahead. I nodded firmly. After the ritual began, the process was identical to a normal wedding. Unlike in my dream, I could no longer see Eric's figure, only feel waves of cold air. Strangely though, I could sense Eric's excitement. He was truly happy. The ceremony proceeded normally until it was time for the vows. I had hidden the blade in my sleeve, my palms sweating profusely. Standing face to face with Eric, I lowered my head and tightly closed my eyes. I didn't dare open them for fear of seeing Eric. With determination, I cut open my skin. Almost simultaneously, a bone-chilling wind rose from nowhere. A creepy coldness crawled up my spine. I looked anxiously at the medium conducting the ceremony, wondering if I had done something wrong. Her expression was serious with a hint of surprise. Our eyes met, and she slightly shook her head at me, then looked toward where Eric would be standing. The blade had already cut my skin, so I could only follow instructions and place the sticker on my wrist. The bloodline indeed flowed out and quickly disappeared. Instantly, a strange feeling filled my chest. A strong sense of sadness that seemed both mine and not mine consumed me. I instinctively looked up at the opposite side, but it happened too fast. I only glimpsed a familiar silhouette, unable to see the face or expression clearly before that thin line completely vanished, and Eric disappeared with it. At the moment he vanished, a pair of crudely made dolls appeared on the ground. They seemed to represent Eric and me. I stared at the dolls, frozen in place, unsure of my own feelings. One thought filled my mind. Will Eric cry now that he can't find me? After the ritual, I remained in a daze. The medium picked up the 2 dolls and examined them. These are just ordinary handicrafts, without any spiritual energy. You can take them home if you like. The 2 dolls were holding hands. The boy doll was smiling happily, while the girl doll had only a faint smile. The medium sighed. He was truly devoted. Before she could finish, her eyes moved to my face, and she stopped mid-sentence, just looking at me with an expression I couldn't understand. I stared back at her blankly. She said nothing more, just pushed the 2 dolls into my hands. A few seconds passed before I suddenly realized my face was wet with tears. That night, I mindlessly scrolled through my phone before bed. When powering off, I instinctively clicked on my messages. It felt weird not having Eric's usual goodnight text. I tossed and turned for ages before finally falling asleep. Surprisingly, I dreamed of that same mist again. Within the fog, a silhouette was crouching, a blurry figure I couldn't quite make out. Just seeing that outline gave me a sense of sadness. My heart softened. I cautiously spoke out, "Eric?" No response. I sighed and softened my voice. "I'm sorry." Still no response. "Don't you have someone you need to find?" "I can't be your final destination. You need to find that person, find your soul." No response. Worse yet, the blurry figure seemed to be constantly wiping away tears. I had no choice but to approach. Just as I was about to pat the figure's shoulder, it suddenly turned around. I realized this figure wasn't Eric. I screamed and jolted awake, taking deep breaths for several minutes to calm down. Eric couldn't find me anymore. This dream wasn't Eric reaching out. It was probably just my stressed mind replaying related scenarios. This time I was completely awake. Accepting defeat, I got up and hunched over my desk, writing a long, heartfelt letter explaining why I couldn't marry Eric. I promised I'd help find his story in the real world and locate the person he was truly searching for. After thinking it over, I sincerely wrote my apology on the page. I took the paper outside to an open area and set up the ritual circle as the medium had taught me. I flicked my lighter, and flames shot up, but the paper stubbornly wouldn't catch fire. I suddenly looked up, staring into empty space. I rushed back to the haunted house. "Eric's still here with you, isn't he?" Brian frowned before eventually nodding. "He is. Not only that, but he's cried, his eyes swollen." I felt relieved yet guilty. I wanted to apologize, but my letter wouldn't burn through to him. "Your connection has disappeared, but theoretically, you should be able to send him things through burning. If the fire won't catch." Brian thought about his wording, then gave up trying to be gentle. "It means he doesn't want to hear from you." I pouted and collapsed into a chair. I'd anticipated this, but hearing it still hurt. "But wasn't he supposed to be completely unable to find me?" I asked, still confused. "My master watched you too that day, and felt something wasn't quite right. Now it seems that might be true. Your real bond with Eric probably wasn't from that wedding, but from a past life." My eyes widened. A past life? Brian's expression was completely serious. "For all we know, you might be the very person he's been looking for." I was too stunned to speak. Brian patted my shoulder reassuringly. "Soul connections are mysterious. Some trials can't be avoided, and some people won't easily drift apart." But I couldn't process this yet. "Are you saying Eric wandered for so long, finally found me, and then I sent him away again?" "It's not your fault," Brian said. "My master said, judging by Eric's condition, he probably died in an accident before his destined time. If you two truly have a bond, you would have met normally. Unfortunately, the timing was right, the place was right, but Eric had already become a ghost. Before his destined time." I caught the important point. "Does that mean if I figure out what happened to him, there might be a way forward?" Brian nodded. "In theory, yes. But practically, you'd need to help Eric find his soul. Beyond that, you'd need divine approval, so..." Brian grinned. "Stick around and help me do some good deeds." Though I suspected Brian was trying to recruit me for free labor, I stayed at his haunted house for a few days, essentially helping fulfill the wishes of the lingering spirits there. Meanwhile, I continued searching for information about Eric online. By chance, I stumbled across a strange forum account. Clicking on it revealed numerous persistent missing person posts. I opened them one by one, examining them carefully. The posters' logic was very clear, able to summarize their situation concisely. Between the lines, there was a strangely familiar feeling. It was Eric, childhood Eric. Eric was an orphan adopted at a very young age. Shortly after his adoption, his foster parents had a biological son. However, their biological son was sickly from birth, so they treated Eric poorly. They insisted Eric had stolen their child's good fortune and spread rumors that he brought bad luck. But Eric never cared about this. From a young age, he felt like his mind contained memories that weren't his own. He needed to find a girl from those memories. In his posts, he shared fragments about his memories with this girl. Some commenters doubted him, others tried to help, but ultimately there were no results. Fortunately, Eric was very intelligent and believed he could get into a good university and use his future abilities to find this girl. The posts were scattered but all ended at this point. I scrolled for ages to reach the bottom, finally confirming the medium wasn't wrong. I also understood how Eric knew so many of my habits. It wasn't just his observations as a ghost. He had been repeating these things for many years. Looking at the computer screen, my eyes ached. I sniffled and forced a smile. Eric had always seemed a bit slow around me. Soul missing, memories incomplete, unable to write clearly, even speaking carefully. Why had I never seen this intelligent side of Eric? He had used every possible method to find her. After shutting down the computer, I booked the earliest flight to Asherville and crouched down, unfolding the paper that wouldn't light no matter how many times I tried. Hey, I'm going to help you now. Can't I even see you? No response. Idiot. I jabbed at the paper, muttering. Don't respond if you don't want to. I'm leaving. Just as I was about to walk out, the lights in the room suddenly flickered twice. I quickly turned around, staring intently at the lamp. Can't resist, huh? Missing me? Flicker once if you miss me. Flicker a million times if you don't. The lamp visibly paused for a few seconds, then slowly and deliberately flickered once. After reaching Asherville, I found Eric's brother without much effort, or more accurately Braden, who had stolen Eric's identity. He was now studying at Asherville University. When I found him, he was happily playing basketball. I cleared my throat and called out, Braden. He instinctively turned and responded before realizing his mistake, his face turning ashen when he met my gaze. I smiled and waved at him. Braden's friends looked confused. Eric, someone's calling you. Braden hastily made excuses and walked over to me. Who are you looking for? Braden's face was dark. Braden, of course, I shrugged. Someone named Eric asked me to find him. Braden's expression suddenly became terrified. He nervously glanced around to confirm no one was watching before pulling me aside. Who are you? I spoke slowly. Eric always said he had a girl he needed to find, but no one believed him. They all thought something was wrong with his mind. Braden frowned. Are you the one he was looking for? I shook my head. Of course not. Braden visibly relaxed. But he's haunting me now. I suddenly raised my voice. Braden screamed in terror and stumbled backward, falling to the ground. Why such a strong reaction? I asked suspiciously. He's haunting me, not you. What are you afraid of? Or did you do something terrible? Braden hastily shook his head. I didn't do anything. I swear. Really? I bent down, staring into his eyes. Eric says he doesn't mean to haunt me, but justice needs to be served. He needs to find the person who harmed him. Guess how I found you? Braden was too frightened to speak. Eric found you first, of course. Now guess, who do you think is faster, me or him? Braden squeezed his eyes shut, no longer caring about onlookers, and began crying hysterically. Bro, it wasn't me. I swear it wasn't me. I said I didn't want to replace you. You were already dead. I couldn't do this. Tears streamed down Braden's face as he babbled incoherently. They said it would be fine. They said scattering your soul meant you couldn't find me. Liars, all liars. Don't come after me. Please don't find me. I grabbed Braden's collar and narrowed my eyes. What did you just say? From Braden's broken confession, I finally understood what had happened. When Eric was 18, he and his brother, only a few months younger, took their exams the same year. When the results came out, Eric had done extremely well, while Braden, who had poor health and didn't study hard, hadn't qualified for university. The Thompson parents threatened Eric to give his opportunity to his brother. Eric naturally refused, so they locked him up. If Braden couldn't study, Eric would have to accompany his brother until Braden was as good as him. After locking Eric up for 3 days, they found he had managed to escape. When they caught him, Eric was already physically weak. In a rage, their father tied Eric up and beat him. Unexpectedly, Eric silently coughed up blood and died. The Thompson family panicked and paid a fortune for spiritual help. The spiritual advisor told them Eric had deep regrets and even retained memories from his past life. He had an unfulfilled romantic destiny to complete. Not only had they harmed Eric, but they had also severed a bond that was meant to be reconnected. Eric would surely come back for revenge. Terrified, they quickly asked for a solution. The master coldly said there was only one way to prevent an angry ghost from finding them. Kill it in the cradle. So Eric's soul was scattered, and Braden stole his identity. From then on, the Thompson family claimed they never adopted an orphan. They only had one son named Eric. Meanwhile, the real Eric became a wandering ghost without memories, roaming the world, repeating his living obsession day after day, searching for a girl whose name he didn't even know. After learning the truth, I took Brayden hostage back to their home. On the way, I called Brian with the truth, asking how to help Eric recover his soul. Brian said that with the location where his soul was lost, and something that belonged to him in life, summoning back his scattered soul wouldn't be difficult. The moment the Thompsons saw me, they all looked guilty as hell, stammering and nervous. After Eric died, they trashed all his belongings. Only his phone remained. They'd secretly kept it since it still worked. When I got the phone, it was an ancient model from 5 or 6 years ago, painfully slow to boot up. Once on, the desktop was all default settings, which totally matched the forum kids style. There weren't many apps, mostly forums. The accounts had long been logged out, leaving only login screens with that familiar avatar. Frozen in time 3 years ago. I didn't bother settling old scores with the Thompsons. Bringing Eric back was more urgent. Brian and I hurriedly prepared the soul-summoning ritual over video call. Brayden threw himself at my feet, begging me not to go through with it. I gave a cold laugh. I'm not the one who'll be settling accounts with you. When he comes, you can explain yourselves to him. Mr. Thompson turned ashen-faced. Ignoring them, I locked the door to what used to be Eric's room and prepared for the summoning. On the other end of the phone, Brian dropped his usual carefree attitude. Ready? He asked. I nodded. Then let's begin. I closed my eyes and recited the incantation Brian had taught me. When I finished, the room's windows suddenly flew open. Countless cold winds rushed in, blowing my hair wildly. Don't worry, those are just passing spirits. They won't do anything. Brian's voice came through the phone. Focus and sense carefully. You should be able to feel Eric's presence. I nodded, concentrating hard. Among the chaotic energies, was there even one trace that felt familiar? In an instant, I distinguished a cold current with that unidentifiable fragrance. My eyes snapped open. Eric! Just then, a massive noise came from behind the door. Mr. Thompson was hacking at it with a huge kitchen knife like a madman. The lock was already old and gave way quickly. He burst in, and although I'd been somewhat prepared, I hadn't expected such a violent entrance. As the knife lunged toward me, the lights in the room began flickering wildly. The cold wind felt like blades, and a dangerous energy swept through the entire room. Mr. Thompson suddenly dropped the knife, grabbing his throat in terror, his eyes bulging as his limbs thrashed wildly. The lights flashed at an extreme frequency, the brightness unnaturally blinding. I could barely keep my eyes open, but in the chaos, I glimpsed a familiar figure. Familiar but terrifying. I'd never seen Eric so angry. Of course he was a ghost. He'd only been holding back, acting cute and vulnerable around me. Eric, you don't need to. I struggled to speak. Before I could finish, wounds of all sizes appeared on Eric's form, and his soul began to fragment. Brian had said ghosts couldn't harm humans. Wide-eyed, I ignored the flashing lights and lunged toward Eric. Mr. Thompson collapsed on the floor, his face sickly yellow, coughing violently and unable to get up. 10 minutes later, the police arrived. I provided them with the weapon evidence and Brayden's testimony. In a society with rule of law, there was no need for Eric to take revenge. Justice would handle them. Half an hour later, the police found Eric's body that the Thompson family had hidden. I returned home in a daze. After giving Eric's soul to the medium, all I could do was wait. She said it was like surgery. How quickly Eric would return depended on his own will. I sat numbly in the empty living room. No fruit appeared magically prepared. No TV turned on automatically. After 30 minutes, my uneasiness wouldn't fade. Eric's will was iron strong, but I still worried. Would the ritual fail? Since he had harmed someone, would his soul be damaged beyond repair? But Eric didn't give me much time to worry. I never expected him to return so quickly. While washing my face wash suddenly dropped to the floor with a thud. I paused, carefully putting it back. Thud, it fell again. A familiar presence swirled around me, nuzzling my neck affectionately, then hesitating before moving toward my lips with that same clingy, comfort-seeking style. Though I couldn't help smiling, I still asked, "Who are you?" After a moment, 3 blood-red words slowly appeared on the mirror. "Your husband."